Yeah.
Play the video.
Play the video. Colorado. We're off to see the rapids. I don't know. I can't sing. This should be a very tricky game. This doesn't get any more difficult than a third game in Colorado, especially when you've been playing game over game and you've kind of got into this rhythm. Now we have a week off, and then it's like, okay, go play in the altitude.
Yeah.
We're good.
No.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, sorry. It raises to me a lot of red flags, like kind of similarities to. Again, I'm going to bring up this theme of Vanney and excuses, but a lot of what we heard before, during, probably, and after the Panama match about the pitch being heavy, the environment not being right, the altitude. It is going to be their first game back in a while after, they're probably grateful to have a little bit of a break, but you also factor in the lack of sharpness to jump in to game fitness in the elevation. It's something that the Galaxy have always struggled with. But the Galaxy we saw last year, especially on the road, was a Galaxy without leaders, without a lot of character. This is a much different looking Galaxy side, and hopefully on a high from that 3-0. So definitely a little bit red flags, kind of maybe at half mast. They're definitely on their way up, but you kind of feel a little bit reassured looking at how they're playing now. So that's just something that I wanted to point out.
Yeah, this is a tricky customer. It always is. Like going to Colorado and playing in Colorado it's a tough fixture for anyone involved. And you could look as closely as Portland, who just lost 2-0 and had a red card in the match. And so Colorado's a mixed bag because they're one of the youngest squads in the league. Like if you need to know anything, they've totally retooled. Like they had Mihalovic. I don't think I'm saying that right, but they sent him to. I did say it. Okay, cool. They sent him to Toronto, and they replaced him with Paxton Erickson, which, if you don't know him, he was like super highly touted, and everyone thought that he was going to be just like his brother, go play in Europe. I think he was at Frankfurt, wasn't getting game time, and then last summer they brought him in, and he's their star man. They also got rid of Cole Bassett to Portland this summer, which was an interesting move in its own right because you could make the argument that's another young player that they have. But this is a team that's going to test our will, a team that knows how to play in altitude, this is their home field advantage. They're a young squad that'll make us run. And then they've got a couple of key experienced players, and that's their goalkeeper and Zach Steffen and Rob Holding in the center back spot.
Yeah, I think we're in for a tough one indeed, because we're not the most clinical. I feel like we're volume shooters in a sense, where we'll put a lot on target, and not a lot will go in outside of Klauss, who has a pretty high conversion rate this season. I think we saw it against Fries. Half-ass shots don't really get past those types of keepers, and that probably kept us out of the back of the net. I think a lesser goalkeeper probably we definitely could have gotten another goal in that game. Zach Steffen just coming off a very good game in that 2-0 win against Portland. So it's definitely, I think that's the scariest thing for me going into the game, is how we're going to make it difficult for him and to put it past him.
Yeah, he's a good keeper, and you have to make him work. The one thing that I thought he was always really good at was playing out of the back and playing with his feet.
At this level,
I would even make the stretch. It's still not very good, and he makes a lot of blunders. So if you can make him work, that's how you can get out of that. I don't really know how they play. They have a new head coach, Matt Wells. He was a longtime assistant in the Prem. I think most recently he literally just came from Tottenham, and they just won the Europa League under Ange, and he was a part of that team. So he's seen it all. It's going to be a very English way of playing. I anticipate them mimicking a lot of the things that we've talked about with the Galaxy. 4-4-2, out of possession, and then in possession, it'll be some form of a 3-2-5. I don't know if they're going to hold the ball, though. I think because of their inexperience, they're going to let us hold the ball. And this is where I'd like Vanney to say no. So we'll finish that with that's our segment on Colorado, right? They've got players that can hurt us. They're young. They're going to make us work at their home. But what do we do to beat Colorado, I guess, is the question. So I'll turn it over to Darius. What do you want to see out of this Galaxy side in this one?
I think it's kind of a question mark for me because I, once again, don't really know what Colorado is going to do at all. It's away, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, it's at altitude. It's always kind of a tough game going away to Colorado. So I think, like you said, we're going to hold a lot of the ball. I'm not sure that's the best for us. I think we got to get an early goal like we did against Charlotte. I think if we score within the first 20, we should have a pretty good chance at taking at least a point away from the game. I mean, we should going up, but it's probably going to be a tough game. They're coming off a big win from Seattle. They're going to have some momentum. So early goal is what I want to see. I want to see us pressing really heavily, trying to force Zach Steffen to get out of the back, like you said.
Yeah. Mila?
Just feed it through Klauss. It's very nice having a 9 that's able to play with his feet also. So we can basically just use him either as a funnel or as a wall to set up our team. I think he's going to be pivotal, especially if they're going to set up 4-4-2, sit back a little bit. Like, we're going to need that. I can't see Peck and Paintsel getting as much dribbling opportunities, but they're definitely going to have to impact the game. And I think, like I was saying earlier, that they have to be on point with the shooting. Because if they're not, then I don't think we're going to get anything from half-ass shots.
Yeah, agreed. Andrew, what do you want to say? You're muted.
Oh no,
still muted.
Hold on, you're still muted. There you are.
As I was saying, I think it's a little bit obvious to say I'd like to see a repeat of this game against Charlotte, but I think that is going to be the MO, right? Charlotte kind of came out a little bit similarly, not necessarily taking the game to the Galaxy, kind of sitting back a little bit. They were a little bit more of a 4-3-3, but they definitely did get into that 4-4-2 at times against us. And I think with the Galaxy right now in their setup, they're not quite a possession team. They're not quite a transition team. They are a team who wins the ball in the midfield and does get it forward quickly. They don't necessarily dilly-daddle. They are most effective when they get it up within a pass or two. But then once they're there, they aren't afraid to combine. But it's like we saw with Peck, it's like we saw with Paintsel, it's like we saw with Klauss. These are intentional touches, like we see with Yamane even. They're intentional combinations. So while it does kind of look like we call it a joga bonito, a tiki-taka kind of style, it's something a little bit quicker. So again, it's kind of marrying, you're getting up in about a pass or two, but once you're in that final third, you have the quality to break down a lower press that you know you're eventually going to come across. And Peck, Klauss especially, did a fantastic job of that in those first 13 minutes. And besides that, it's going to be the Galaxy controlling. You guys, everybody kind of mentioned it. We're going to have a lot of the ball. It's going to be us kind of being responsible with that ball, moving it, not losing it in the midfield. We want to make sure Charlotte is the one doing that. We want to be sure we're controlled under the press, that we can play out of it, create a play out of that. That's something that this team is good at as well. So it's responsible possession. And then I think incisive attacking is going to be the MO, similar to what we saw in Charlotte. Controlling, responsible, not necessarily looking to be the 2024 Galaxy. It's going to be, again, I think Greg Vanney said it. I'm going to remind it. We're not going to give a shit too much about finding the play, creating. We're going to defend, be responsible. And then we have 3 brilliant DPs who are going to make something happen. And they have Mickey Yamane, they have Aude, they have Surreal, they have Sanabria. They have a pretty solid team around them now. So these are games that last year do make you a little bit nervous. You kind of expect to drop points, but it feels like this team, if they play the way they did on Saturday, which is a big question because, again, it's Colorado and altitude, all these big ifs. If they can do that, it does feel like it can be another set of simple MLS points. What should have been the case in New York, what was the case in Charlotte. I think they're starting to cut out that mistake they had in New York, and we're going to see more of those type of performances. And I think that's going to be the order of the day in Colorado.
Yeah, if this game gets stretched, we lose. That's my synopsis. Is if the game gets stretched into a vertical game where our midfield gets pulled out from that mid block 4-4-2 that we're currently playing, the altitude wins, and it always does. So you can't let it get stretched. And the best way to do that is to let them have the ball. And I think their first game against it was actually Seattle. The first game against Seattle, they lost 2-0 and they maintained, I think, a lime share of the ball. I think they had like 57%. And that, for me, that kind of comes down to they're just an inexperienced team outside of Holding and Stefan. So if you can let their young players make mistakes, that's how you ultimately hurt them. And I want to see us play off the back foot like we did at the beginning of the Charlotte game. I don't expect it to come as easy as 3-0 inside of 13. So that maintaining of a steady block where you're hitting on the counter. And I'm going to just jump this straight into the predickies because I need it to be Joseph Paintsel because Reggie Cannon struggled severely against Harbor Miller in this last fixture, and we won 3-0. Joseph Paintsel should be able to shred Reggie Cannon to like just a different dimension. That's what should happen. Now, I don't know with him being deployed a little deeper if it will happen, but I'd like to see Paintsel get on the score sheet. I'd like to see him have more than one shot if possible, and I'd like it to all be on the counter. And I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. I'm feeling confident. I know it's hard to win on the road, but
I'm also 2-0, but I think it's going to be Klauss.
I'm going 1-0 with Klauss.
And Andrew?
I like a 2-1. I think the altitude might show its face a little bit. There might be either a moment in recovery, a quick counter after a corner, something like that. There might be a moment where, like Dylan mentioned, they do have these threats and they might be able to capitalize. I do think Mikovic has been great. Despite not being Gamiro Garces, I do think Lessines has been great in recovery. So I do even think in that case we have solutions to those problems. But again, it's the Mile High Club. Something's bound to go a little bit interesting. So I think a 2-1, and I think I agree that it's going to be Klauss taking the headlines again. I think it's going to be, I think, a moment of just good finishing. We saw lots of flicks. There's a nice back heel in that game against Charlotte as well that almost came off. It might take something a little bit creative like that to kind of find space in what we expect to be a pretty packed box. So I think he's gonna have to pull out something like that, and it's just so much fun to watch Klauss, I think, as well. It's so much fun to watch this team the way they played on Saturday. So it sucks. It does suck now that it's going to be a week, but I think it's important that they have another responsible performance because we're starting another road trip, another 5 games in 15 days. It starts there, and that does drain you. The recovery is the toughest there. You got another game in another 3 days against in Jamaica, I believe, which again, it's going to be 2 challenging physical tests in LA. There you go. Regardless, it's a physical team. It's going to be tests back to back. You don't want to be having to put on Marco Royce necessarily to see out a game or playing even Klauss all 90 minutes. So you want to put it away relatively early as you can and be responsible. So yeah, Klauss in a 2-1.